North of 48, or as we call it up here in Canada, Tariff Eve. I guess the United States is going to throw some tariffs on Canada, 25%. They're going to throw some tariffs on Mexico, 25%. And their sworn enemy, China, they're going to put a 10% tariff down, which makes me wonder if Elon Musk, he was going to build something up here in Canada, maybe a battery production. How are you going to get your batteries to the United States, Elon? I mean, not well, whatever. In the meantime, I do know that the American government, I'm being careful here so I don't get strike, but American government has suggested that Canada become its 51st state. Well, we all know what would happen if that happened, especially in Texas. And the Americans are trying to change the geography of the world, where the Gulf of Mexico will now be called the Gulf of America. So it's January 31st, and it's minus 13 degrees Celsius out here in northern Canada. Welcome to North of 48. Sorry I haven't been around. I got sick really bad during Christmas. We went to an Asian smorgasbord, or for you guys on the East Coast, that would be a buffet, an Asian buffet. Father-in-law actually went to the hospital with influenza A, and I got terrifically sick, and my blood pressure went up, and so I'm fighting something, so I did not feel like doing any of these videos, because it's supposed to be a labor of love, but when you don't have any labor in you, it's pretty hard. Plus, I still work full-time, too, as well, so there is that. I hope you're doing well. Here we are getting together. Tariff Eve. This brings me to mind what happened the last time Americans put tariffs on. So the Tariff Act of 1930, when it was codified, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, it was signed by President Herbert Hoover on June 17th, 1930. And this act raised U.S. tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods. It is pointed out that this act helped keep America in a depression far longer than it should have. Americans were running a positive in their exports and imports. There wasn't a deficit. And the League of Nations also said this is a bad idea. Other countries that were hit by these tariffs decided, well, if the United States is going to do it, we're going to do it too. And there was a whole world of hurt till the start of the Second World War. The main goal of the U.S., I get it, was to protect its jobs and farmers from foreign competition. Senator Smoot, he championed another tariff increase with the United States. There was 1,028 economists in the United States that asked President Hoover to veto the legislation. He never did. Henry Ford spent an evening at the White House. He tried to convince Hoover to veto the bill, calling it an economic stupidity. And J.P. Morgan's chief executive, Thomas W. Lamont, said he almost went down on his knees to beg Herbert Hoover to veto the asinine Hawley-Smoot tariff. So, hey, if it didn't work the first time, maybe this time it's going to work, right? Can you imagine, though, Canada and Mexico, and we have a NAFTA and the agreement after NAFTA, what is it, USMCA, something like that. Our supply chain is all linked together. This is ridiculous, I think. Just putting my 2 cents out there.
In the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
The president yesterday said that last night he was planning to discuss whether an exemption would be made on oil imports. Do you have any information on what decision he made there, or will there be exemptions at all offered under this?
I don't have an update or readout for you on the exemptions, but those tariffs will be for public consumption in about 24 hours tomorrow, so you can read them then.
Okay, well, what do we know on impacts on Canada? Well, a study estimates that a 25% tariff on Canadian exports to the United States could cost Canada's economy $275 billion in GDP by 2030 and more than 200,000 lost jobs. Now, apparently, the cabinet appointees have said that it's not necessarily that there's a bad trade deficit with Canada. It's more that this is for border control and fentanyl issues, cited as a provocation for these tariffs, and they're a strategic negotiating tactic meant to gain leverage or concessions on such issues as the entry of illegal aliens and drugs or perhaps military spending. The second dimension to this is the executive order calling for federal agencies to investigate U.S. trade deficits and to refocus trade strategy as a matter of national security by April 1st. These studies have far-reaching objectives. They want to create structural changes to the way America trades to bring economic production home to the U.S. and to force changes in the actions of trading partners that will drastically alter the global trading status quo. The third element of the tariff approach is revenue generation to pay for the $4.3 trillion tax cut that the government wants. So there was, what was it? Anything over $100, you're going to pay 100% tax or 30% tax, going to get rid of personal income tax. I don't know. But anyways, in Canada, the Prime Minister and the Premiers have largely agreed on a dollar-for-dollar matching tariff, except for, of course, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith, who went to Mar-a-Lago, who tried to get in and watch the inauguration, and who's just been a bit of a, well, maybe she has a point, I don't know. But Saskatchewan Scott Moe also disagrees with the counter threat of an export tax on Alberta oil and gas and Saskatchewan's potash exports to the U.S. Let's talk about Saskatchewan's potash exports. I want duties on them then. The American farmer is reliant on the potash exports that we send to the U.S. to grow, to make their ground more nutritional for the plants. And I, as a Canadian, I would say screw it, because there's lots of countries in the world who want our potash. And as far as the oil goes, oh my God, we're selling it to you guys anyways for, what was it, $6 off the world trade price. That's, you're getting 25% tariff on that already. I mean, what do you want? So possibly those will be taken off the board. I'm not sure, but it's steel and aluminum, and Canadian steel producers, Stelco, has said they will not export to the United States as present. Last time, retaliatory tariffs on a variety of sensitive American products, the government relented after a year. But, he's got more, there's more capable advisors. There's a plan in place in America. And is the world going to suffer over this stuff? I'm going to say, yeah, for now. For now, it's for sure. We have no reprieve from 25%. business leaders in Canada want to fight U.S. tariffs. Now, let's look at it another way. Most of the Canadian businesses up here seem to be American or American owned. There might be Canadian subsidiaries, but the day of the true Canadian business seems to have passed. We've grown up with the free trade, and we have Home Depot up here. We have Krispy Kreme and stuff. We have Walmart. What's going to happen? Like Walmart, how are they going to get their American goods up here, or Mexican goods, I guess, or Chinese goods, if they have to go through the United States border and there's taxes on it or tariffs? Because without a doubt, Canada will respond. There's already been talks with the EU of Canada actually joining the EU. I do not know how far that's going to get. It's interesting, though. Yeah, what do you think about it? Can you put something in the comments? What are your feelings on it? So right now we have 9 in 10 of 250 Canadian business leaders wholeheartedly believe that the federal and provincial governments must stand firm in protecting Canada's sovereignty and values. It's consistent across the country with 96% in Alberta, 90% in Quebec, 88% in Ontario, 82% in BC. 85% believe Canada should fight U.S. tariffs with retaliatory tariffs. 94% say Canada and the 13 premiers must show a united front to the U.S. 82% of people in Canada want a targeted dollar-for-dollar retaliatory response. 80% are preparing or bracing for a recession this year as a result. 90% want to eliminate interprovincial trade barriers. So it's easier for me to get something out of the States than it is to get something from Ontario. Because of these trade barriers and also the distance. We're closer to the States than we are to Ontario, and I'm up in northern Canada. 56% of businesses say they will lay off employees if tariffs are implemented. And the federal government is introducing income support similar to those offered during COVID to help Canadians whose jobs are disrupted or lost due to tariffs. But 79% are concerned about related inflationary impacts of increased fiscal spending if a bailout fund is created. So what have we learned? I learned I'm already tired of anything with politics or America. Can you just be quiet for a couple of weeks, for a month, let the rest of the world, be relaxed? That's where I'm getting. I'm thinking, well, we've seen this before. I think we're going to know what's going to happen here. There's either way, there's going to be a lot of people unfairly and unjustly caught with these tariffs, with these exports? Or will there be a complete reversal and say just fooling? But instead of putting the tariffs on, we're going to take $4.1 trillion of taxes out of the economy. And you guys can pay all your taxes with on your state taxes, I guess, or on goods. I know it's just the logic of everything coming out economically it doesn't sound right, does it? I'm not a big fan of that neoliberal stuff. I wasn't a big fan of NAFTA. I think it was a BS thing to do, to be honest. It cost us thousands of jobs in the automotive industry. U.S. Steel came in and bought one of the Stelco plants, and then they left back to the United States. It's just, I think it's been devastating. Canada needs more manufacturing here. That's the one thing we should be doing. And I thought We had learned that through COVID, where we couldn't even manufacture the jab for a while, or masks, and had to get them from China. Like, what's wrong with this picture? Have we screwed up our supply chain network that badly? I thought we were going to get more domestic control over our manufactured goods. However, we do get a lot from the United States. So I would suggest to you, we ain't going to get as much anymore, because who's going to pay those high prices? So I'm working on a video of what I feel like hopefully more professional than this is. This is everything off the top of my head pretty well. On what's it like to be the 51st state, and you know that the United States and Canada both had plans to invade each other. So we have thought about this before, and I remember in the 70s reading the book. It was called Ultimatum by General Richard Romer, and it's the story of the U.S. invading Canada, as written by a Canadian. More precisely, it's the build-up to the invasion, the haggling, set in the backdrop of the 1970s energy crisis. Now, could we have an energy crisis if Canada has to shut off its oil? Well, you can drill, baby, drill, but look, I just hope Americans and Canadians can get along. If you've been into the Canadian chat rooms on Reddit and stuff, holy mackerel, or Quora, is it? You know, there's a lot of disdain for what's happening, and rightly so. But don't let us have any disdain for you. And as the Guess Who said, we don't need your war machines, and we don't need your ghetto scenes. Sparkle someone else's eyes. And I think Americans would agree. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.